Welcome to my tale of Reddi-LOL, where a high school teacher takes a calculated stand against a group of entitled, irresponsible students, not out of malice, but as a final lesson in accountability. The year this unfolded, I taught a course open to grades 9 through 12, students aged 14 to 18 for my international viewers. This class wasn't mandatory for graduation, but it fulfilled a core academic requirement. From day one, I laid down one rule. Never ask me, when will we ever need this? Because you chose to be here. You weren't forced into this class. My teaching philosophy centered on personal responsibility. I structured the course so that every student had a clear path to success. If you gave your best effort, you were guaranteed to pass. If you worked exceptionally hard, an A or B was within reach. I made it my mission to support any student who showed genuine effort. One example stands out. A student told me he finally understood the material but couldn't submit the assignment on time. My response? Then turn it in tomorrow, full credit. That's how hard work gets rewarded. Outside of a few firm deadlines, I bent over backward to help students succeed, whether it was catching up, fixing a project for another class, or just being there when a student needed to talk about their parents' divorce. But if you chose to waste class time, I had zero tolerance. I'd give a couple of warnings, email your parents, and then step back. If your parents didn't care, I wouldn't force them to. I'd let you dig your own hole, deeper and deeper, until you were waist-deep in failure and begging for a lifeline. Only then would I toss you a rope. You could still climb out if you tried, but too many students just sat there, crying, until the hole collapsed and buried them. I used my school's online grading and assignment system for nearly every task. This allowed me to track when students opened assignments, how long they spent on them, and whether they plagiarized. This data wasn't just for grading. It helped me make fair decisions about leniency and gave me concrete evidence to share during parent conferences. For instance, I could say, "Of course the test was hard. Your child didn't attempt the homework until 11 p.m. the night before." Being able to prove lack of effort made it impossible for parents to unfairly blame me. And as a bonus, the laziest students usually avoided my class. Until this year. This year, something unprecedented happened. Instead of the usual wave of troublemakers, I got a full-on invasion of 7 senior boys who'd rearranged their entire schedules to be in my class together. Other teachers were stunned. How did I end up with all of them at once? I just shrugged. Every week, the staff lounge buzzed with curiosity, eager for stories about how I handled their antics. But I'd shut most of it down early. Surprisingly, I actually got along with them. They were skilled at pretending to work and didn't disrupt others. Then came the first group project. With just the right number of students, 7 groups of 4 formed naturally. These 7 seniors split into 2 groups, pulling in a student who'd been absent on day 1. Both groups failed spectacularly, not because the project was hard, but because they wasted class time and left everything until the weekend before the deadline, then dumped the work unevenly, resulting in minimal effort from everyone. I handed out the failing grades and was immediately pulled into parent conferences. Each meeting followed the same script. My child did all the work. They don't deserve this grade, or they didn't understand the assignment. Calmly, I presented my hyper-detailed rubric, a checklist I'd emailed to every student the day the project began. I'd even itemized the grading breakdown. Here's what your child turned in. Here's the rubric. I'm happy to walk through it. Where are the missing parts? When they replied, "My group members were supposed to do that," I simply said, "I can't grade work I never received. I can't raise the grade, sorry." But here's the good news I gave every student. I increased the weight of assignments as the semester progressed. This allowed students who failed early to recover by working hard later. I also seeded extra credit opportunities throughout the term. The parents left disgruntled but hopeful. Their perfect kids could still earn an A. The result? It clearly wasn't my fault. I had data, emails, and documentation proving I'd reached out and supported everyone. So the blame had to fall on the other group members. These parents decided their angels were no longer allowed to work with those toxic friends. Like a cancer, this refusal to collaborate spread through the class. Genius move on my part. I required every group to sign a contract detailing who was responsible for what and when it was due. Why? Because that contract gave me the authority to remove a non-contributing member and give them a 0 without getting attacked by parents. But now the problem exploded. These seniors started bouncing from group to group like infected ping pong balls, causing chaos. Since students chose their own groups, the seniors desperately latched on to anyone willing to take them. Because of class size, every group eventually had to work with at least one of these boys. Complaints poured in from other parents. Their kids were doing all the work while the seniors slacked off. Usually these complaints came too late. I'd explain, I'd love to remove that deadweight, but you didn't use the contract. Students stayed silent, afraid of retaliation. I couldn't act without documentation. That's where the contract came in. And I had another safeguard, Google Docs. Every edit was timestamped. I've seen students try to fabricate work the morning of a parent meeting, but the timestamp exposed the lie. That feature was a godsend. The class was balanced. A bad group member could make things harder, but not impossible. Parents were pleased I wasn't sabotaging their kids, just disappointed their children didn't use the tools available. Every time I announced a new group project, some seniors would buy lunches, give gifts, or suck up to secure a spot. The day before, they'd sit separately so they could say, "I'm already here, let's be in a group," and it usually worked. Morale suffered, but I waited. Other students grabbed extra credit opportunities to cushion their grades. Parent complaints were minimized because I kept offering chances to succeed. My principal had a copy of my syllabus, including the clause above the signature line. My signature confirms I have read this document in full and agreed to abide by all rules. He'd remind parents who claimed I didn't read it that signing meant they did. The fallout. There were 7 lazy seniors, but 3 stood out: Larry, Curly, and Mo. Their parents especially loved causing trouble. I imagined them puffing cigars in a smoking room, laughing about how they'd bullied another teacher into submission. I knew any action I took would be scrutinized, and I refused to become their victory toast. Special note about Larry. He'd just turned 18. His parents traveled constantly and were unreachable. He'd become a full-blown jerk because no one cared anymore. I monitored his grades, not just in my class, but across all subjects. I routinely checked other teachers' records for struggling students to see if the issue was isolated or systemic. Some kids even faked grades using browser inspection tools. I'd had enough of being called a liar. After checking, I spoke with colleagues. These boys were coasting in other classes too. Larry had found ways to get other students to do his work and then shared it with his friends. Other teachers had been pressured into reducing test weights, so even with failing tests, homework and projects kept their grades at low Bs. I couldn't prove it. They used Snapchat, and teachers didn't want to fight the parents. They were gaming the system everywhere, except in my class, where their only option was leeching off hardworking peers to maintain Cs and Bs, and no one dared use the group contract to fire them. Remember how I increased assignment weights over time to motivate effort and redemption? One random day, I announced, "Hey, I was looking at the schedule and realized the last project might stress you out before finals. Anyone mind if I drop it?" The class shouted, "No, drop it! Best teacher ever!" So I said, "Okay, I'll push the next project back a couple of weeks and extend the deadline by a week. And since I canceled the last one, this project will now be worth about 20% of your final grade. So do your best. Failing this could ruin your grade." The class just shrugged. "Whatever. .jpg." In one move, I hadn't inflated the assignment. I'd simply shifted it. I emailed parents and students about the syllabus change. No complaints, just gratitude for reducing stress. Honestly, I did it because another teacher had assigned a massive project the same week, and I didn't want my students burned out before finals. Then came Friday before the project launch. I announced at the start of class, "Okay, I'm introducing the project today so you can form groups and start first thing Monday. No delays. This is too important." Smirks spread across the room. Why? It was senior ditch day. Our school didn't endorse it, but I'd known about it a month in advance. All 7 seniors were absent, which meant the rest of the class was finally free of their dead weight. Groups formed instantly. Even better, 2 students had transferred out at the semester's end. So mathematically, the 7 seniors would now have to work together in just 2 groups. I stressed that everyone needed to be in class Monday morning so we could start immediately. My goal? Light a fire under these 7 slackers, give them one last chance to show responsibility. Most had grades in the low C range except one with a low B. As a bonus, I added an extra credit portion, a chance to recover early mistakes and let the seniors shine if they tried. This wasn't meant as revenge, just one final lesson. Before the weekend, I sent a notification to parents and students the project had started and absent students needed to contact classmates to form groups by Monday. This would prove crucial. The immediate fallout. Monday morning, the seniors strolled in seconds before the bell. Only 2 tables were available. They sat. After attendance, I said, "Everyone has the rubric, go ahead and begin." The rest of the class dove in. The seniors panicked. Larry, Curly, and Mo immediately tried to join other groups, scooting their chairs over. I stopped them. Groups are capped to 4. The other 4 seniors started fighting. None wanted to work, and all knew the others wouldn't either. Larry, acting like he was untouchable, demanded special treatment, a group of 5. I saw other students wavering, so I made a bold offer. Fine, but with 5 people, I expect double the work. You'll do the project twice. It sounded harsh, but it worked. The other kids instantly refused, even voting on it. Larry was the only yes. Once they heard the double work condition, they physically shooed the seniors away. The rest of the period, the seniors spent it arguing over who would work with whom. They eventually formed 3 groups. I nodded, handed out rubrics, and wished them luck. Being the prepared teacher I was, I emailed Curly's parents and Mo's mom, informing them their sons had chosen to work together. Mo's mom showed up to argue with me constantly, but she'd learned I wouldn't back down. At a previous meeting, she'd even turned on Mo. "I'm tired of fighting your battles. Maybe you're the problem." But I suspected it was for show. Curly's parents replied, promising he'd write a group contract. Curly had sold himself as the top student. Surely he'd do the work and fire his lazy teammates. Mo's mom demanded a meeting. School policy gave me 48 hours to respond. I waited until hour 47, then sent a non-committal, "I'd love to meet. When are you available?" Then I waited another 48 hours to schedule a time the following week. Other senior parents emailed angrily, "Why did you let our kids work with those bad kids again?" I explained, I didn't expect all 7 to be absent. Some seniors got grounded at home for ditching. Their parents told me, just help them pass. I agreed. Some needed this class to graduate. Mo's mom arrived ready for war. She demanded I move Mo to another group. I refused. The project was already underway. It wouldn't be fair. She demanded I add him to a full group. I said no. Others had already done most of the work. She demanded he work alone with an extension. I happily agreed, slid him the rubric, and he turned pale. He knew he'd never do the work. I already had their group contract, hastily scribbled in pencil, no due dates. He argued with his mom, saying he'd rather be with his friends. She accused me of waiting until that day to screw the seniors. It was a school-sanctioned event. You're being a jerk. I smiled. I had proof. All 7 had partied at her house on ditch day and told her the principal had approved it. Even better, they'd called in pretending to be their own parents for excused absences. She flipped on her son the moment I revealed this. Now he was the problem. I bought time by saying I hadn't known it was ditch day, but I'd given him a free extension on that week's homework. Seniors deserve traditions. She bought it. I proved I emailed them both, giving clear notice to form groups. I'd even tried to warn her, but her precious treasure ignored it. She made him open his email. My message sat unopened. I'd won. She thanked me and took him home. Class morale soared, unless you were one of those seniors. A week before the deadline, neither group had started. The class average was heading for disaster. The results. The project was due. No surprise, the seniors turned in some of the worst work I'd ever seen. One group had a text fight the weekend before, ending with, "You effing do it." Curly and Mo were in that group. The other group, led by Larry, was just as bad. I graded these two first. I knew the fallout would be huge. All 7 seniors dropped at least 1 letter grade. Some dropped 2. Larry took his F calmly. He'd scored around 10%. I knew he was plotting. Curly's parents demanded a meeting. So did Mo's mom. Curly's parents were furious. They didn't know I'd already met with a student who'd done the whole project poorly. I showed them the text logs, clear evidence of Curly refusing to work. When they asked for his phone, he refused to hand it over. I showed him his project and the rubric. Dad asked, "Which part did you actually do?" Curly burst into tears. I didn't need to pull up the spreadsheet, but I had it ready. I highlighted his group project scores, among the worst in the class. Data proved he never contributed. Curly was shattered. His parents kicked him out of the meeting, exhausted by his excuses. They asked what they could do. I offered one-on-one tutoring. He could still pass if he did homework and scored well on the next test. They agreed. We shook hands. Curly never showed up. After 3 emails, his dad replied, "My wife and I have decided he needs to learn to be an adult. We're leaving him to his own devices. Thank you." Curly spent the rest of the semester doing nothing, just watching YouTube in class. And yes, it's funny if he's watching this video. The ripple effect? Glorious. He quit working in all classes. Teachers emailed his parents, same response. No more fighting. He graduated, but his parents told him they wouldn't pay for college. Time to get a job. Mo's mom exploded, but got the same answers. After exhausting every excuse, she admitted she knew Mo had bullied the only hardworking senior in the group. She'd tried to play me, but failed because I knew everything. I agreed to tutor Mo one-on-one, made her happy. But now she emailed me constantly. Is my son doing work? Did he help with homework? I started waiting 48 hours between replies. She began showing up unannounced to check on him, meaning check on me. I suspected something. Then it clicked. Larry. Larry was Mo's friend. He'd been visiting Mo's mom, feeding her lies, telling her I was emotionally abusing Mo during tutoring, especially when no one else was around. He even said, "You can check the cameras. I'll make sure you see me there." She launched an attack on admin. But I was smart. I was a mentor teacher. I had a first-year teacher working with me after school, grading and assisting. She was young. Mo thought she was a student and never remembered her being there. My principal already had her written statements about my professional, respectful interactions with Mo. When Mo's mom demanded answers, we met with the principal. She claimed I'd singled out her son, abused him, and needed to raise his grade. I asked Mo directly, "Describe what I said during our sessions," offered to leave so he could speak freely. She insisted I stay. "I want to hear what you've done to him." Neither knew about my mentee. Mo couldn't recall any abusive words. He froze. The story collapsed. Mo's mom faced consequences from admin. She blamed Larry, visibly upset she'd fallen for such a dumb trick. An email went out. Teachers were warned not to be alone with either student, but I always had someone in the room, so it didn't matter. After that, Larry suddenly cared about his grade. I realized he was trying to get me fired, then used the chaos to get a passing grade. Failed. I scheduled tutoring on days I knew he worked. He never came. Now other teachers refused to meet with him. No more deals. They'd been fooled by his fake change of heart every semester. Mo's mom made a last-ditch move. She emailed me saying the senior parents had scheduled a meeting with my boss to get me fired, but she'd put in a good word if she met me first. I was sitting next to my principal when I got it.
He had no idea what she meant. I replied, "I'd be happy to meet everyone. I'll probably eat my lunch during it. Hope no one minds the smell of fish." She replied, "Seriously, they're threatening to sue you." I played dumb. I can't be sued for eating fish during a meeting. She realized I gave 0 Fs. I couldn't be threatened. I followed policy, she had nothing. The final weeks were chaotic. One by one, the seniors collapsed. They'd done nothing for years and didn't know how to work. Other teachers, inspired by my stance, finally held them accountable. A few scraped Ds. Most failed. Some begged for last-minute grade boosts, but I documented that none had attempted the extra credit. Hard to blame a teacher who offered help and proved it was ignored. They started failing other classes. A few broke down in my room, crying. Their friendships shattered. They blamed each other. They'd get over it by summer. The final test was online, multiple choice, with randomized questions and answers. No cheating. I knew they'd sit together to copy. Larry had spent a fortune on tutors to carry his friends. It failed. When Mo's mom accused me of making the test unfairly hard, I shut her down with a single email. Larry passed, barely. His grade rose to a D-. Final outcomes? One senior didn't graduate, had to transfer. His parents flew the whole family for graduation, only for him to miss it. 2 lost all scholarships, couldn't attend their dream schools. They ended up at the same college with 3 others, including Mo. Larry's college rejected him before he even started. His final GPA was too low. His long con? He claimed he toured Europe, then surprised his parents by coming home instead of going to school. They kicked him out. They were selling the house to downsize. Last I heard, he told people he joined the military, but was discharged due to a made-up illness. Each version had a different fake disease. Curly's parents reconsidered and paid for college. He got kicked out mid-year for underage drinking, lived at home for a year refusing to work, now works at a vape shop. Mo used his mom's money to pay others to do his work. When that failed, he faked grades. The school expelled him. His mom told a friend he'd become an entrepreneur filming weddings with a drone. Last I heard, he was selling acid on the side, and his mom still thinks he's filming weddings. One senior realized he needed to change. He cut ties from the group, worked hard, graduated with honors in a high-paying field. He emailed me, "Thank you for challenging me. It prepared me for college." That's it. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like and subscribe for more heartfelt and powerful stories. Your support means a lot.